Hello there, world of tankers. Welcome to the channel, and in today's video, I'll be playing in the Tier 10 British Tech Tree Medium, the FV4202. A vehicle which is really fun, but also incredibly unenjoyable at certain times. The FV4202 is a vehicle that does need a buff, I will admit. I think it's really fun, and in a good player's hands, in a really good farm, this can be one of the highest damage output tanks in the game. It has 440 damage with high explosive, with 227 mils of pen, which is enough to cut through the majority of mediums in front of you. Not only that, you can cut through heavy's lower plates, and with the 275 mils of standard pen you have, there's really not many situations where you're going to struggle to cut through enemy opponents, at least using your mobility. The problem I have with the 4202 is simply the gun. It has terrible on-movement dispersion values. And even though Wargaming buffed its turret on-movement dispersion, it is still double that of a Leopard 1. Now, I don't think that this tank should be as accurate as a Leopard 1, but what I do think is that the 4202 should be very accurate. It sacrifices a lot, including armor, and just about all of its penetration, so that it can have Hesh. And the problem is, when you have a gun that fires Hesh but can't hit its shots, you're going to be in a really annoying situation. And that is exactly what the 4202 kind of sits at, where it's got these really, really good strengths, but unfortunately, if the gun doesn't work, well, they kind of quickly fall apart. However, as long as you have the ability to aim in, you're not going to have to worry too much about your shots missing. So, we'll see what we can do. But you can see that on-movement dispersion I'm talking about. Look at how much the gun blooms just when I turn the turret. You can imagine... By the way, I missed that shot because of that. But that's what I mean. Like, this is a medium that can't hit its shots if you turn the turret just a little bit. That's pretty sad, and it's very irritating because it can cause you to miss some really easy clears. Now, we have the enemy FE2 and 5B183 in the back. And there's an enemy E100, which we get a 380 damage shell into. Classic E100, by the way, camping and spawn. It's always the German super heavy for some reason. Not able to pen him at that angle. Oh my god, and our Kron's already dead. That's pretty impressive, bro. Wow. Well, this is not a good start. We have a chieftain who's flanking, and we do have tank destroyers covering it, at least. If anybody tries pushing up over here, we should have a pretty easy shot. There you go. Ah, thank you, Wargaming. I love my RNG. Truly, nothing can beat it. Bouncing the freaking flat side of a Progetto. That is really, really rotten. Well, we get a 360 damage shell into the enemy Type 71. And as we can see, that enemy FE2 and 5B183 was looking at me. We can aim it on his tank very, very briefly. And there you go, a non-penning high explosive. You're starting to see where the 4202 has its downsides. Oh, let me guess. I'm spotted? Yes, I am. But you're not getting that shell out on me. Not today. Easy shell into the enemy Jagdpanzer, and I'm just going to back up. Really not going to worry too much about the Jag. In fact, it looks like the Jag just shot. We're going to aim in a shell on his lower plate, and oof, we got the E100 over here as well. Interesting. We have a lot going on, and I'm trying to think of what's the best decision to make here. We have the E100, we have the Type 71, we have all these goobers, and what I'm thinking to do is to push the Jag. Let's aim it on that Jag lower plate. Unfortunately, we don't end up penetrating, but chilling here is a really, really good position because it puts the enemy in an awkward spot. We obviously have the Kron right here. Again, do you see that on-movement dispersion I'm referring about? Like, that's tragic. The level of bloom that this gun features just to hit one easy shell is so incredibly bad, and it's rather annoying. Now, you can hit your shots still. It's not like it's impossible to hit your shots, but it's just very irritating that your shells do what they do sometimes. So we're going to try and get to the side of this 777, which we have, and now that we're on his rear, this is where that 440 damage and high explosive capabilities just ravage your opponents. You can see that with the good mobility as well, this 777 really just doesn't have much of a way to counter me. We got a 473 high explosive into his tank, and he is taken out of the game. That puts us up to 4,200 damage dealt. Unfortunately, the enemy Kron has about the same brain as a Newt, and drives right into the entire enemy firing line. So all that's left is the Kron and the Type 71. We have the Kron in the back, which I get a nice 269 shell into, and that leaves us with the Type, which is not mobile enough to deal with my tank, so we slam a shell into his hide, dealing 4,634 damage. As we can see, The 4202, when given an opportunity to farm, especially against players that don't know what they're doing, the 777, it can get out a lot of damage. Way more than a Leopard 1 or any other high DPM vehicle, because you're ripping out 440 a shot. I mean, we ace the tank for Pete's sake. As I said, when you're given an opportunity to farm, the vehicle does amazing. The problem is, as you saw just a brief example of there, the gun is very irritating when you're trying to shoot people on the move, or you're trying to snap. The problem is, this is a tank that needs to be accurate, because you're trying to hit these really nasty HESH shells, but if you can't hit them because the game says, it's kind of annoying. So, I really like the 4202, but I wish that it just didn't bloom that much on the move. I personally would trade a lot for a much more accurate gun. But, as we saw in the first game, it did a pretty good job, so we're going to see if it can do another good job. Now, I'm not going to drive up the bridge, because driving up the bridge is almost useless. I know I say all the time to go up the bridge, but the reason going up the bridge is useless is not because going up the bridge itself is a bad idea, it's because your team doesn't support you. That's the problem. Your team, 99% of the time on this map, will end up going down. And even if they don't, 1 or 2 players still won't go up the bridge to help you, which you sometimes desperately need. So because of that, it takes what would be a pretty easy win and turns it into a pretty bad one. And it's why I don't really go the bridge anymore on this map. We can see a great example here. My Object 140 decided to kind of go the bridge, and because of that, he's put himself in a real awkward spot. But, because I'm over here, I can get some pretty good shots out. We already get 1 shell into the enemy Caro, and hoping that we can maybe get another out. However, the way that the car is sitting currently, we're obviously not able to do that, but we'll see. Our Type 68 appears like he's going to move up a bit, and I'm hoping, okay, E3, do we have to drive directly into me? Is that your job? Like, you have this entire road, and you have to sit, okay. Either way, we can see that they have what appears to be an AFK Conqueror and Yag. Is that correct? There's no way, right? Nah. The Conqueror is AFK, but the Yag is not. Alright, well, we're going to aim it on the lower plate of the Conqueror. We're going to get a 440 damage high explosive. We do get detected, and bro gets absolutely touched, but he's dead. That's all that matters. IS-8 misses me, and we are not able to pen a high explosive, but that's where the good standard pen comes in. We still get a pretty good shot, and that's obviously very, very nice. We can see the E3. Oh, that's not an E3. That's a 4005. Remember I was talking about the tragic on movement? Well, there you go. Another great example. Missing a very easy flat side of a frickin' 4005. Like, really, game? Really? Now, we do get shot for 800 by this enemy Yag, but you know what, bro? You know what? I really don't care, because at the end of the day, I'm just going to squeeze right off to your side, and now you can't do anything about it. I'm going to chill right here. I've got HESH. We're going to get a nice 440 damage high explosive, and I'm going to stop you from being able to back up. TL7 is going to miss the shell on you. However, because again I have 440 damage high explosive, I'm able to slam that right into your tank and get the clear. So we're up to 2,800 damage now. We still have 1,100 health left, even though I did bleed a bit to the Yag. Really not that big of a deal. So we have the IS-8, who appears like he's going to try and run, and we're going to aim it on the rear of that IS-8, and there you go. I could have fired an HE, but honestly, it doesn't matter. I'm just trying to guarantee my pens and deal as much damage as I can. That's exactly what we did there. We have the T110 E3 and IS-8 left, so we're going to squeeze right off to the side of the E3. We're going to load in a high explosive and get a 445 roll. That puts us over 3,000 damage at this point. We can see that that player gets cleared. We have the IS-8, who we're going to aim it on the rear of, which we get a 380 damage shot into. Just like that, once again, we can see a great 4,000 damage game dealt in the 4202. So yes, this tank does have weaknesses, just like every tank in the game. But I personally think that the strengths of this tank make up for the weaknesses by quite a bit. And if you are a skilled player and you understand how to use the HESH, you can have a really good, fun game. Do I think this is a vehicle worth grinding? Yeah, I do. I still think that it does need a little bit of a buff in some of the areas, but I think overall this is a really fun tank, and if you are skilled enough to understand how to position it, how to use the high explosive, you can have some really good results. And if we take a look at my stats in it, we can see I do fairly well. I have played over 68 games. I got 3,500 average damage. My win rate's on the lower side, but that's probably not the tank's fault. That's probably just some unfortunate teams. At the end of the day, it's a great tank, and I think that this is a great choice for certain people to grind. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.